Just think of all the franchises we missed out on. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for another top 10 movies that bombed so hard they had to cancel the sequel. Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. For this list, we're looking at more films that were meant to kickstart a franchise, but ended up bombing at the box office and/or with critics, and thus were never continued. Number 10. The Lone Ranger.
Hold on, Kimosabe. Tonto?
Disney's The Lone Ranger is a modern adaptation of the classic radio series and 50s television show. However, it seems as if the Ranger and Tonto aren't quite the superstars they were 60 years ago. The film was lambasted for its bloated length and over-reliance on action, while also being accused of whitewashing by casting Johnny Depp as a Native American.
What you crying, boy?
Indian.
The film cost roughly $400 million to produce and market, but it ended up making only $260 million at the worldwide box office. Stars Armie Hammer and Ruth Wilson were signed to do at least 3 movies, but these plans fell off a horse upon the Lone Ranger's abysmal performance.
Something very wrong with that horse.
Number 9. Conan the Barbarian.
No man should live in chains.
Did you know they made another Conan movie in 2011? Neither did most people. Despite the movie featuring a few respectable actors, including Jason Momoa and Ron Perlman, it was severely criticized for basically every aspect of its filmmaking and for relying too heavily on its 3D effects. The film ended up grossing a meager $48 million on a $90 million budget. There were plans to follow up the remake story, but it was soon announced that they'd be making a sequel to the original 1982 film instead. However, these plans eventually fell through too, meaning the 2011 movie likely ended Conan's appearance on the silver screen.
I live, I love, I slay, and I am content.
Number 8. Eragon.
Sorry. That's all there is.
It's probably best that there were no more films, because we don't know if we could sit through another one. Eragon was considered one of the worst movies of 2006 due to its atrocious writing and derivative storyline.
What did you just do?
I started a fire.
Despite the movie's roasting by critics, it admittedly didn't do terribly at the box office, as it grossed a rather respectable $250 million on a $100 million budget. However, this was deemed a disappointment, and the sequels, which were set to film back-to-back Lord of the Rings style, were cancelled. Fans of Christopher Paolini's Inheritance cycle will just have to wait for a more respectable film adaptation, because Eragon was not it.
Are you ready to try again, Dragon Rider?
Number 7. King Arthur: Legend of the Sword.
But there is no way that I am fighting.
If there's one movie audiences weren't asking for, it was yet another King Arthur movie. This time directed by Guy Ritchie and starring Charlie Hunnam. Don't get us wrong, we love those guys, but we don't think a fantastical King Arthur film was a good fit for their talents. And neither did audiences.
Why have enemies when you can have friends?
The movie grossed only $148 million on a Marvel-esque $175 million budget, effectively making it one of the biggest bombs of the year. Legend of the Sword was meant to serve as the first entry in a 6 film series, but after losing Warner Brothers $150 million, its sequels were swiftly and understandably given the axe. Or sword, in this case.
I feel a joke coming on here.
Number 6. Planet of the Apes.
You damn dirty human!
Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes had one thing going for it: Rick Baker's incredible makeup effects. Aside from that, the movie was a total wash, as it was a confusing mess with a twist ending that tarnished the iconic nature of the original.
Can't we all just get along?
While the movie was a financial success, Fox decided to scrap its plans for a sequel, and Tim Burton stated that he'd, quote, rather jump out a window than do another Apes movie. However, this was no great loss. Fox decided to reboot the series instead, resulting in 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and arguably one of the greatest movie trilogies of all time.
Take your stinking paw off me, you damn dirty ape!
Number 5. Jumper.
Just jump all over the place, jump, 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 jump. And nothing's gonna happen?
Jumper was another relatively successful movie whose sequels were canceled. Jumper starred many notable actors, including Hayden Christensen, Michael Rooker, and Samuel L. Jackson, but it received horrible reviews due to its lack of coherence and awful special effects. However, The movie did gross over $200 million on an $85 million budget. But while producer Lucas Foster hoped to turn the movie into a trilogy, these plans have yet to come to fruition. A spin-off titled Impulse premiered on YouTube Red in June 2018. So, that's something.
No one is going to believe you.
Number 4. Godzilla.
We're in his mouth! We're in his mouth!
Godzilla is one of the greatest monsters to ever grace movie screens. It deserved better than this abomination. Godzilla was set to be the movie of the summer, as it was made for a massive $130 million. And while it made a very respectable $379 million at the box office, it was viciously attacked by critics for being nothing more than a dumb disaster flick.
What do we do?
Running would be a good idea.
There were plans to produce a trilogy based around Godzilla and similar monsters, but plans fell through when they failed to generate interest among moviegoers and theater owners. The sequels were scrapped, and Godzilla was rebooted over 15 years later.
Let them fight.
Number 3. Ghostbusters.
Let's light him up!
The all-female reboot of Ghostbusters was immediately met with disdain. Its trailer was heavily downvoted on YouTube, and many people personally attacked the filmmakers and cast over social media. It was a mess. Regardless of the reasons for the vitriol, the movie ended up grossing a disappointing $229 million on a $144 million budget.
Booyah. Emphasis on the boo.
Well, I would love to see that. I really would.
Sony head Rory Brewer hoped the movie would spawn a franchise, and it was reported that the cast had signed on for 2 more movies. However, director Paul Feig later confirmed that they were canceling the sequels due to the film's mediocre reception.
Okay, this is not good.
Number 2. The Divergent series, Allegiant.
What if there's nothing else out there?
Young adult movies are big business. Ever since Harry Potter dominated the world throughout the 2000s, producers the world over have been trying to replicate its success. The Divergent series did not do that. Despite a respectable lead performance from Shailene Woodley, Allegiant was the 3rd movie in the series, but it only grossed a disappointing $179 million at the worldwide box office.
You saved a city. Help me save the world.
Due to the film's underperformance, plans for the second part of the movie fell through, and it was announced that the story would continue as a television film and/or TV series without Shailene Woodley. Talk about 2 serious blows.
Hey.
We're leaving.
What?
Right now.
What? I can't.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some dishonorable mentions.
I can be the ultimate dad. I know. Let's stop for a treat.
That is definitely bigger than the last one.
That's right.
My hands light up like roastlers. You call that a gift? Its legacy has its own function. There's more coming.
As you breathe and focus.
Number 1. The Last Airbender.
I don't know how to bend the other elements.
We didn't really have high hopes for M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender, but it turned out to be even worse than we imagined. Not only did the movie generate a measly 6% on Rotten Tomatoes, it was heavily criticized for whitewashing many of its Asian characters. Despite the bile spat at the movie from both critics and fans, it managed to generate a respectable $319 million at the box office. While Shyamalan had planned to make a sequel featuring Azula as the villain, these plans never came to fruition. However, Shyamalan has expressed interest in making more Airbender movies at a future date, should the opportunity arise. We hope it doesn't.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.